cash make you feel?
Always grateful for the money. You're grateful for the money. And you stash it. नहीं करोगे तो पैसा लेके कहीं और जाऊंगी मैं. But यही करो.
I think Vijay and I, we keep each other on our toes in that sense. You know, we're like, नहीं metro लेके जाएंगे.
Since I started working, I've been like financially independent. I'm not asked for money at all.
What it allows me to do is, instead of feeling, oh shit, खर्चा हो गया, it allows me, after you all are done eating out, बाद में मिलते हैं after party घर पे, आ जाओ. It's so powerful. It's a fun guddy of notes, but yeah.
What's that?
So girls, how about money? Maybe we can start with how does cash make you feel? And then we can go into how does money make you feel?
Cash, a lot of cash makes me feel very scared. I think
Yeah?
there's so much of digital currency and cards and stuff that I feel like if I have more than 2-3K on me, I'm just like very anxious.
Yeah, I think I like the concept of cash in the bank rather, sort of, I can just go and take whatever I want, but I don't want it physically in my hand. I'm like, what about tax man does that, the worst case scenarios.
Comes into your...
Like all kinds of scenarios in my brain. I'm like, I don't want cash in my hand.
Wow. पैसे तो हाथ का महल है.
अगर बैंक में रहना चाहिए. Accessible but not in touch.
I love the tangibility of cash. I do love it. I mean, it feels like I'm sorted. I
It's
got
real.
something. It's real. Especially like when you're going for a trip somewhere and you just want to have like one gaddi in case on the highway नहीं चल रहा है internet ये वो तो होना चाहिए. Yeah, that's... And first jobs were always like one gaddi of cash. So it was
not
for me.
Like, but as in, for example, it would come in the bank, but it's not like you can pay the auto wala and this, that, and also you had... The moment money comes to the bank, there's a line at the ATM to go withdraw cash so that you can pay everybody else off.
But I also think I'm a bit of an anomaly for my generation because we grew up with only cash, right? There was no option. We had to like sign check and triple sign and whatever. So I think I might be a bit of an oddball, but because all my friends, everyone still likes to, have a stash of cash ready, like you were saying, for any circumstances.
Yeah.
But yeah, not me.
Anyway, so maybe we can move away from like this hard, tangible cash into the concept of money itself and talk about what our relationship with money is. And I think this is an important topic also because money for the longest time by society and by corporates has been treated as a taboo where you don't discuss it. You never, and that's why we have pay parity issues. That's why we have all of these things because you don't discuss money. You don't discuss it with family. You don't discuss it with friends. You don't discuss it with colleagues. And the only person you'll discuss it with is probably your parents or your spouse. And yet there's so much dispute in families that happen over money, over property, over all of these things. So maybe we can talk about our relationship with money, how we navigate money, how do we make sure that we are financially capable, strong, independent in those things. And so we'll start off with Shrishti, the youngest.
I think my relationship with money is not simple, but it's not complex either. Like it's kind of somewhere in the middle. I know that money is important to like kind of survive, and that is kind of the truth of the world that we live in, right? You need a lot of other things, but you definitely need money to be able to like sustain, right? So I think that's one part of it. I've also seen, I think in my own like circle, a lot of like stuff that you were talking about, right? Family disputes, etc. So I feel like while money can be very emotional, right? I feel like there is a certain amount of logic that you should approach that with. And like there is a bit of skepticism that kind of comes with that part of money. Yeah, I mean, I think I enjoy spending money on things that I love doing. I don't question that a lot, or I'm not, like there is definitely some amount of money that I know if I have liquid in my bank account, I will feel like kind of safe. But yeah, I don't think I have a very complex relationship with money. It's functional to some degree, and it's also like allows me some sort of cushion to do things that I want to do without thinking about it, or like overthinking something a lot. So yeah. What about you, Emma?
Very convoluted. Not even so much complicated, it's just convoluted. I think it's, I'm a little scared of it. I am constantly uh, defining my worth a little bit around how much I bring in, that sort of thing. So it's a bit complex. And I think that because I started thinking about money as something that I need to own much later in life, I never had pocket money. Whatever I needed, I just asked for it. And, depending on, it was yes or no, but I had to ask for it and I got it. So I started my journey with money very late. And so it's a little bit, I need it for security. I feel like it's my anchor. But I am also evolving over time through the decades almost on how I treat it. It's been so long. I started off being a moron about it, not knowing anything, to making it a goal, to now over the past couple of years, I'm actually consciously thinking about it as a tool to achieve what I want to achieve rather than because I mean, as we go along, I'll probably bring it out because thinking of it as a goal was messing with my brain a lot, and so I'm trying to alter that relationship where I have power over it, but it doesn't have power over me, which is a very subtle shift in dynamic. But yeah, it's complex.
So money for me played a very important role in life right from childhood. I have been the kid who knew what her school fees were. I was the kid who knew why I can't take the school bus, why I have to take a BST bus. I was the kid who knew why I can have this cycle and not that cycle. What my phone bill is, and I knew this like from second standard, third standard onwards. From the time I could understand plus, minus, multiply, divide, money conversations were very clear in the house. So I never had, I would never go home and ask for a guitar because I know I can't afford it. My family can't afford it. So no point asking, why will I ask? So you can't throw those tantrums when everything is so transparent कि भाई घर में इतना ही आता है, इसमें हमको घर चलाना है. It's not like I knew the price of anda and pyaj and tomato. I didn't know all of that. But I still knew that itna money is there, itna thing. So very early in life, I knew that, boss, you have to have money if you even want to be able to breathe. That is critical. So everything around that, all goals, all ambitions, all hobbies, everything had to somehow amount to being able to earn money. Education was not for knowledge. Education was so that I can grow up, get a job, earn money. Doing a master's degree, out of the question. You finish your bachelor's and you straight get a job because you have to start earning money. Choosing friends who are from the same economic background, because you can't hang out with rich people. You can't hang out with people who spend money to hang out. So you're not going to a shopping complex. We didn't have malls back then. We're not going to a shopping complex, or you're not going to have ice cream, or you're not going to have cola, or you're not going to have like a 2 rupee solo stick to hang out with your friends. Those are not the kind of friends you can be with. You can be with friends who are just ready to chill in the colony and walk around and hang out. So it defined the kind of people I hung out with. It defined the kind of the thick skin that I would have in somebody. I think in some other episode also we spoke about, you have a Hawaii chappal, you wear Hawaii chappal and go play sports, right? So it defined how to have a thick skin and never to feel ashamed about it. I don't know where that came from. To never feel ashamed that you don't have the money for it. right? So to really own it and say, bhai, itna hota hai, itna karenge, and it's fine. So as I grew older also, like I started going to college and all of that, I would hang out with the rich kids in college. But post college, I am not going and spending 500 rupees on some pizza somewhere because I can't. So I'll be like, wow, yeah, had a great time, awesome. Me and another friend would go have a 5 rupee vada pav and a 7 rupee lassi and then head back home because that's what we could afford and it was great. So while in school, and I really felt that there was some kids who would show their money, and then there was some kids who were just so kind, generous, mature, understanding that they would understand the situation very fast and never show off the money. They would come on their cycle and hang out with me, or we would have great conversations, or we would exchange some books or something of that sort. So I feel that being that conscious around money, also I could notice the maturity and immaturity in friends and circles and all of that. But it did define a lot of things for me in terms of, like I mentioned, who I hang out with, what I do, what I choose to study, how I choose to travel, and everything.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very sort of similar upbringing in Mumbai, right? And I feel like what people call middle class, um, it's actually a very strong contributor to how confident and underconfident you feel about money, right? It gives you the confidence to say that I can manage with this much. Itna kafi hai, you can manage. But it also makes you underconfident about using that money to get richer. It's only a few of us who develop that, sort of sense ki use it to make more money. Yaar. Kaise nahi hoga, right? So, I mean, for essentially, it's sort of very similar childhood, right? Go by BST bus. We knew that my dad had a job and all of that, but you were the little urchins playing in the street. I didn't wear chappals, and it's just you had the sense of feeling grounded and not taking things for granted. But and as I've grown, I've realized that makes you a lot more humble about what you can achieve with money. But like I said, there's that little bit, right? Because if you come from an employment background, you never learn early the use of money as a tool. Yeah. You are always grateful for the money. You're grateful for the money. And you stash it.
Feel it's something to be earned, stashed, kept, felt secure with, and the other, growing to be.
Whereas my cousins, for example, in Chennai or whatever, right? Or friends who've come from business backgrounds, they're very clear. पैसा है और पैसा कमाने के लिए, right? It's a tool. You don't like stash it and keep it and give it to somebody else for ice cream or cake or whatever. You make sure that you put that money in और ज़्यादा आ जाएगा कहीं ना कहीं से, and that is actually a very mind bending sort of thing. It takes a lot to throw away the burden of a childhood value system, right?
The pot of money.
It's
holding of money.
It's a less of a sense of deprivation that you scarcity mode.
I still
it's
have
a scarcity mode. Yeah,
I still have scarcity
myself.
I still feel I do not have enough money. I still argue with my husband about the same thing. If we have to do like a trip, do we have money for the trip?
Yeah,
do we have money for this? I want fridge. I want this. I want that. How do we prioritize this? Everything becomes such a, like there is a limit to the money, and therefore,
correct.
Although I know there's no limit to money, it's about how you put in, how you grow, but it also takes effort to put in that money and
very,
make it
very
grow
conscious.
and all that.
So every decision I have to take now it's like a mental conversation with me for like a week or 2 weeks to buy a lamp for 2,000 bucks. Should I buy it for 2,000 bucks now or something else, right? And it can get exhausting.
It gets very exhausting.
I feel like my journey has been very different from the two of you. Like I grew up with not experiencing scarcity at all. Like it was like, we used to travel abroad growing up, and it was like nobody, like I didn't have a fixed pocket money. So like that concept of like I don't think like there was exorbitant spending on anything, but that concept of, okay, there is little and you have to spend wisely or whatever, at least was not, I don't remember like that experiencing that growing up. My mom was very conscious about like that you have to earn your own money and you have to be independent. Right. So if you want a house, you want to go on a vacation, you should be able to afford that to yourself. So that was definitely a conversation back home. And this whole idea of like investing and saving money to invest was definitely a conversation. But this idea of scarcity was something I don't think I experienced it till college when things were not going too well. And that's when it really hit me. And it took me a lot to kind of accept that or wrap my head around what does this mean now, right? Because coming from 18 years of not experiencing that to suddenly you're like across the country and having to experience this all by yourself was like a completely different like kind of feeling. And I think since then, like since I started working, I've been like financially independent. I'm not asked for money at all. And that has kind of shaped the way that I look at money now, and like how like that whole logic versus emotion thing. I feel like that a lot of that comes from there. But I still feel, despite experiencing that, I still don't feel I have a scarcity mindset when it comes to money. Like I don't know, maybe it's just something I've also not seen growing up. And I feel like, for example, my partner comes from very different like family background, business family, and he looks at money very differently than I do in terms of like what you were saying, like how can money make more money and stuff like that. And those conversations are like kind of interesting. So I think that also that relationship with money has evolved together for us over the years, where there are some ways in which we look at that, like some of his ways are shifted and some of my ways have shifted over the years of like being together. But I still don't feel like this scarcity mindset. Like I don't overthink a 2K purchase, for example, as much. A 10,000 purchase, a 5,000 purchase, I will like probably think about. But like some of these I don't sweat on it as much. Yeah. Yeah.
That's very interesting because I will sweat on a 2K purchase.
Unnecessarily so. It's not like I can't afford it, right? And it's not like I won't go out need, but I will. I'm like, should I? Shouldn't I? Is it?
I will try to find the lamp for 1,500 on Amazon.
I see. I'm not that extreme. I just have to justify that purchase. I'm sort of in the middle there, but I think it is. It is a mentality that was not. I feel like it got sort of aggravated in me because I lived through during my college times. My dad was going through a bad patch, like his business was not taking, consulting was not taking off, etc. Right? So, that sense of not like he passed on the burden to us, but I knew that something is off and you can't like take it for granted, right? So from that, and then graduate school, when we started off, my partner and I, when we were there, I was in graduate school. Money was scarce. I mean, we were living paycheck to paycheck. I like literally paycheck to paycheck. I carry that fear of credit card burden to this day. I only recently restarted spending on my credit card after nearly 15 years because we had to spend on our credit card so that we could delay payments, and I think that sort of, it's a sort of scarring, it just keeps picking at the same thing until it becomes almost a way of, sort of an unhealthy way of thinking, honestly. It keeps you afloat, which is a healthy part of it, but it's unhealthy because it doesn't allow you to see the possibilities. It allows you to only look at problems coming up, and so in me, what it has done is that it leads to procrastination of decisions because I don't want to spend that money now, right? So I put it off, I put it off, I put it off, I put it off till, whatever, right? So I think those kinds of things are a little complicated in that sense. And luckily for me, in my late 30s, I first said I have to like take a hold of this beast. It's not a beast. You can't say at 37 you don't know what a mutual fund is. It's ridiculous. You can't just say I only have fixed deposits. You have to understand what is money, right? And so that's where I started. I started at 37. Wow. To think about money, right? I had savings and I had like a fixed deposit. I knew money was coming and I was living within my means. But how do you grow it? I had zero clue. So I started from there and, it's still evolving. But like I said, it became a goal for nearly 10 years that itna karna hai. I have to do this and I want this because I see it as security for me. It is that sense of, okay, now I'm okay. It's not like I won't have family support or whatever. I come from decent enough background, but I've always thought of that as a loan or a cushion that I'm not allowed to pay. It's not my money. It's my dad's money or my mom's money or, whatever. It's not my money, right? So this is my money. How do I be responsible for my career, my life, my wants, my needs? And how do I take agency over that? How do I control it? Right? So that's what it is.
I think it's very interesting how you talk about, you have family backing and therefore, you don't have to worry. For us, and it's a self-imposed thing, for us, for my family, it's crystal clear. You are on your own. I give you education, I do all of that, and then you're on your own. Because it's not like my parents had financial backing from their parents or their parents had financial. Nobody. We come from a family of farmers and financial, like I know like my uncles and all still ask for money from the nephews, nieces and everybody to educate their own kids, right? So it's a very different family scenario where this generation that has got educated supports all the previous generations. So we don't get money, we give money. And in some sense, creating those boundaries for us has been super critical for me, for my cousins, for everybody. Ki this much money is for me and I also have to always have the separate money to take care, to give, to donate, to do all of this. So in that sense, feeling like there is a financial backup was never there. And it creates a very strong sense of independence in a person, but it can also create a very strong sense of fear. And I grew up with that fear that if I don't make it, I'm screwed. If I lose a limb, I'm gone. And that's why I'm grateful for my body and all of that, right? Because at any point in time, if I lose an eye, I had to choose careers in such a way. I was like, I can never choose a physical career, like a dancing career, this, that, or whatever, because what if I meet with an accident? I cannot choose a career in art and all because what if my eyes... I should always choose a career where I can use my brains, because if my brain stopped working, then what's the point of living anyway? I was in that zone. So I've gone... So money has dictated just so much for me in that way. So not having that backup was one thing that you just, Pelle say, it's a default. You don't have a backup. Got so toxic that one fine day, I think one of my bosses in Bombay, he told me that, Anusha, if you really want to eventually buy a house, you can ask your parents for help. And I'm like, no, how is that? That's just not okay. They have educated me. They have done everything for me. How can... He said, they gave birth to you. They brought you into this world to take care of you. So they will have money stashed for you. They will... Their house is your... I said, no, their house is their house. It can't be mine. It had gotten this toxic for me. And it needed this other person who has kids of his own to tell me that, no, parents come from a mentality where they want to take care of you. And because I'd not seen a lot of that in my family because of all the disputes and everything and kids leaving and going off, I think that how you grow up financially from those really hard situations and where you reach informs so much about how secure you can feel in life. And it took me a while to absorb that. And now this, 6 months ago, we bought our own house and I mustered the courage to ask my parents that I'm falling short of this much for the down payment. Can you support? And I will pay it back to you. And my dad from his life savings was like, because it's their retirement savings. While they were not so savvy and all, they've at least planned for their retirement. So from his retirement savings, gave me that chunk of money, and was like, okay. And it was a shock to my mom also, that wow.
She asked.
Not just I asked, that dad agreed.
Oh, very.
Yeah, like wow, he's okay with this. And now they're living in that house that I bought, which is a beautiful full circle that has happened. And the way I pay them back is that they don't have to give me rent, and I figured all of that out. But I keep that transaction crystal clear, that hey, I have to pay you back every month this much. This is the rental that I would have anyway expected for this kind of house, and this is how I'm paying you back, and this is how this is happening. And I keep a record of that and track of that, so that there is no misunderstanding at any point in time that I have, taken advantage of them, or that they are taking advantage of me. And the thing is that they feel guilt. They didn't want to move into this house because they were like, how does it feel? You just bought a house. How can we move into it? And all. I'm like, not just me and my husband together, we bought the house. And like, how can we just move into it? How will your in-laws feel? And I'm like, the transaction, the money conversation is crystal clear. You've helped out, and this is how we are working this out. So you have a right on this because of the way we've done this. And if I pay you back, then it's a whole different conversation, right? So I don't think it is only informed by what I feel. I feel like it's got so much to do with what my parents have taught me, what I've seen from my cousins, what I've seen from my... And when you marry, right, you're married into a whole different way of looking at money. Which is what you said. Your partner looks at money differently. And then two philosophies clash. And you have to figure things around. Oh, God. And then you have to figure things around that. And then it takes a while for two people to find that vibe and get to it.
I feel like there is this nurture component in money that's really strong. And as you were talking, I was just thinking that this whole idea of like what I have seen back home is very different. What I've seen back home in my extended family is that parents support kids. Parents support adult kids. Parents support adult kids who have kids as well to help them, get a house. And it's not considered a loan. It's considered, support, right? It's not expected to be paid back, right? And this is not just like I've seen my grandfather do that, my nana do that to like his kids who are like my parents, like, and stuff like that. And it's very, very different, right? So I kind of grew up with that expectation, or like I don't think I fully felt it, right? But there was this, it's there at the back of your head. And that is, I think in college when that shifted, where I said, okay, and maybe it was self-imposed, right? Maybe it was just me being like, okay, I don't have this luxury anymore, right? It's a privilege that a lot of people around me have, a lot of people that I've grown up with have, but I don't have that. And I still feel like maybe a part of it is still self-imposed. It's not, maybe that's not the reality. But it's very interesting to have that shift where, like you said, and that's how I feel about money now, that if I want something, it's something that I need to do, right? There is no nest egg. There is nothing that will come and help me do that, right? And whatever comes with that kind of, I don't know if it's a burden or a responsibility or what, but just just is.
Yeah. I think, this entire thing of the self-made person, I mean, the respect that you have for a self-made man, it just is the same thing. I want that respect for being self-made, that I made whatever I can. I feel it's too much.
Yeah,
it's too much.
If you have privilege, take it.
Yeah.
Unabashedly take it.
Yeah.
And the people who grow richer are the ones who know this. Yeah, sorry.
But that's when the middle class people like us start despising people.
That's true.
And now we've changed. Like with knowledge, I have this mentality that, man, she had the privilege, she took it, she ran it, and she learned something.
Yeah, exactly, right? As long as you don't waste it away, I feel like privilege is something that maybe is just an advantage that you can take and grow. It's like a handicap in golf, right? You just go ahead with it. And And I've now moved from despising people, um, including sort of a certain shame for myself, right? To saying, hey, you know what? You've taken whatever you got, say 10 lakhs or whatever 20 lakhs you got as your advantage, and you've made it a crore, you've made it 2 crores, you've made an empire, a company, you've run your own business. Why not? Right? And I think that it's a significant shift in thinking. But I was actually curious to understand from the two of you what is your relationship and how do you manage money today? How are you with money? What is your sort of plan for money? If you get a salary, what are you thinking? How do you do that?
I'm a very planned person that way.
Oh, really? Big surprise, Anusha.
+1.
Yeah. I have Excel sheets. I have. So you spoke about credit card debt. And honestly, the way we grew up, like middle class, nobody teaches you how to manage money in school. You don't learn any of that shit. Your parents also don't know max to max, like FDs and all of that. Right? So never had a credit card till 2021 when I worked on a fintech brand, and founder just assumed that we all have credit cards. And then I was like, but in my head, it's like credit card is the bad thing. But it's only after reading a lot of books like The Psychology of Money and reading, Atomic Habits and all those things, I realized that artifacts are not the bad things. The habits, the patterns, the way. And if I have been so good with real money, then I am sure I'll be good with debt money as well. And that's when I went and I got myself a credit card. And like baby steps, I took like the easiest available credit card, and I went for it. And I'm not dropping any brand names here. But I took the credit card where I thought I'm getting max benefits because I'm already spending a lot on certain e-commerce portals. So, okay, I think that's enough. And then I started getting really, really, and also I've been broke 3 times in my life. Okay, I never had debt, but I was broke. Broke as in reaching to that 2,000 final 1,000 rupees, 800 rupees on the account, kind of broke. Where I had to borrow money from friends, kind of broke. Not borrow money from parents, but mostly borrow money from friends, kind of broke. And not broke because I was spending on myself, broke because I was trying something. I was trying to consult, or I was trying to start something new of my own. Or I was really not happy in a job and I just wanted to get out of that situation and I wanted to do something else altogether. And so I volunteered somewhere and was only getting a stipend, and that was not enough to make ends meet, and I had to dig into my savings and all of that. So being broke 3 times in life really puts in that scarcity mindset also that you were talking about. And after the third time, in fact, the third time was when I was married. Imagine being broke when you're married and growing up with such fierce independence and then having to ask your husband for money. And that was never the relationship you started with. You started as equals from day one. And then, we started a business together, and then it had its own shares of ups and downs. And he continued having a job. I quit to run with it. And he said that he would support, which he did. But money, it treats money very differently. And I had to ask money to run the house. I had to ask. And that just ate bit confidence out of me that I have to ask money. Like if you would have just given it every month saying that, oh, salaries come, here's the money, run the house, do this. But that's not him as a person. And he's not thinking of money like that also. It's not on him. It was such an internal thing for me that, yeah, I have to ask for money for groceries. Like, what the hell? And that's when I was like, shit, I've been broke single. I have been broke after a job, and now I'm broke in marriage. And I don't want to be broke ever again. That kind of thing. And that's when the whole Excel sheet things and the being extremely crystal clear with money, starting using a credit card in 21, tracking I like credit card because then at the end of the month, I go back to every expense. And I no more beat myself up saying, shit, ye mahina maine bahut kharcha kiya, because I know exactly what I spent on. If I spent 45,000 on something this month, it's not like I was indulgent or I have no idea where my money is going. I went to a pet-friendly resort. A pet-friendly resort costs a lot of money. It's not a normal trip that I would spend 10, 20 grand on and finish it off. So it will be double the cost. Or I got some sort of an appliance in the house, and that's it. So I no more beat myself up for expenses because I have a very clear view that, bhai sab, I have spent that money for this and that. So I take in that extra time, and I like, Vijay will still be like, what you're doing? I'll be like, no. It helps me feel good about myself that I am not wasting money, that I'm not doing anything wrong. So that's a credit card Excel sheet. And then there is a Anusha monthly net worth Excel sheet also.
It's a very important.
Yes. So my friend calls it this concept that I heard from a friend saying that you need to stash fuck you money. You know, so that's my net worth sheet where I track everything. PPF में कितना है, EPF में कितना है, in some how my mutual funds are doing. Each and every mutual fund, how much it's grown on that day. Sure, it goes up and down, but that day of the month, what is the rate for that? And I do that in the first Sunday of every month as much as possible. And if I don't do it for 1 or 2 months, at least the third month onwards, I do it. So it happens at least a quarter. Started every month, and now it's been 3-4 years. So now it happens once a quarter. But it gives me clear visibility on how much I have. Now I've started adding, like, if there is some gold that I bought, even gold gets added to that, because that is at the end of the day an asset, money, right? So I put that, okay, there is this much worth lack of gold, there is this much in stocks, there's this much in this mutual fund, there's this much in equity, there's this much in debt funds, there's this much for emergency funds. I know which funds are for emergency funds, which bank account are for curveball, which one is a curveball for my parents, and which one is a curveball for me and my husband and my pets, right? So I have separate accounts for parents' curveball, separate account for my curveball. I just feel this is not something that I recommend for everybody. It just helps me to bifurcate, saying that at any point in time, I have like 50K to 1 lakh in case anything happens to my parents. I have about 5 lakhs in case anything happens to us. You know, that kind of stuff. It just... And I don't have to think कि भाई मैंने ये महीना 5,000 खर्चा कर दिया.
Pressure in your brain.
That I have already sorted it out. Shit is going to happen.
But
Shit will happen. Is going on. Shit will happen. And I have sorted myself for it. Money allows me to do that.
I mean, I think not as much as this, but similar direction. I feel like I track my expenses every month. I have a sheet for that. I also organize expenses. So I tag them to different categories, and I try to kind of gauge how much I've spent on each. So like food, like going out versus groceries versus whatever. And obviously it's not the same. There's an average. And that's how I do my budgeting as well. Like I did this for a year and then figured out that, okay, this is roughly the amount that I need to run my life the way that I need to. The first thing that I do when money hits the bank, like salary, and this has been the case from the day I started working, is to invest whatever I need to invest. That's the first thing that goes out, which is that money is not available for me to spend because it's already invested. It's gone. And my investment account is separate. I don't touch it. Like, even if it's sitting there and it's waiting to be like credited for like mutual funds and all, it's just there. So that's kind of one thing I do. I do tracking monthly. I try to do it like weekly because it then helps. I know exactly what I've spent, and I try to be as granular as possible. It's a bit excessive, but I like that reflection exercise because I know that, okay, you know what, this month I've already crossed X amount, and this is where it has gone. So how do I kind of look at what's coming next? So I think that's one part of what I do. I also have like 3 separate accounts, which I think again is a bit excessive. but I have one account where like money comes in. I have one investment account, and I have one account which was initially for like a PPF that my mom had started in my name and that I continue to pay. But I use that as a vacation stash fund. So there I just park money for vacation.
Special things that you want to
so that's not emergency fund. That's not anything else. That's just money for travel. Because that's something that's kind of important to me. So that's kind of one way I do it. We've been working with an investment planner for the last 2 years now. And he went through like a very detailed exercise of like, what are your goals in life? When do you want to retire? Like, all of that. And we did that, like me and my partner did that together about 2 years back. And since then we've been like kind of working towards that, like independently. So we kind of divided whatever that list was into half and have been kind of working towards that on our own.
Oh, very nice. We've worked with the same financial planner. I think working with the finance and the decision, because yes, I'm so clear with these boundaries now. The decision between Vijay and me was, do we do this individually with the financial planner? I think now I'm understanding why people used to call me fiercely independent. Or do we do this as a couple?
And you were clear.
And I wanted to do it individually, but then eventually I think we spoke it out and we were like, no, let's do it as a couple. Let's do it as a family. Because it'll help us get visibility into what each other is also doing, as opposed to, me being on my own track with financial independence and, Vijay figuring it out all by himself. I think together we were stronger. But at the same time, so what the financial guy had also recommended was that Vijay put a lot of his, because I had already money in equities and all, so he had given me chunk of the debt funds, which would grow slowly, of course, at 5 to 7%, and gave Vijay a chunk of equity funds. I took the decision myself. Whatever he has recommended, we divided half.
Same.
I am not putting in debt and you put in equity, so your money grows and my money doesn't. Sorry.
We did the same.
Yeah, I am putting into all the equity funds he has recommended to you, and you also put it to. So I feel like just because a financial advisor has given me this doesn't mean that I just run with it. I want my money to grow also big time. So that's how I created my boundary. Saying,
Yeah, I think when we first moved in, because I had a very clear, I would do this like monitoring of expenses before that. And obviously there was a bit of shift after that. We like did for I think about 6 months, we did full expense tracking. We managed a splitwise account.
even we manage a
Yeah,
split.
for 6 months to figure out how much are we spending. Now, I can be very religious about putting stuff on splitwise. I know my partner's not like that. So
Same.
we were like, okay, let's not do, because it seems weird. I'm putting money and you're not, then it's like, it's kind of strange. So we kind of divided, like, because I order most of the groceries, like food, I love like organizing and cooking and stuff like that. So I take on that as an expense. But whenever we go out, I don't spend. So we kind of balance it out like that, and rent and all of like salaries for help and stuff that we divide like half. So that's kind of how we do it.
But going back to your question of how do I'm thinking of my pie chart of my salary. So my salary gets credited between 25th, 23 to 25. It gets credited. On 25th, my equity funds go up. Because I have looked at my equity funds, when it dips, that's the day. So I have put the SIP. It goes exactly on those dates. Everything is cut off on that day. That's done. A good chunk of my salary goes into that. A little less than 50% goes into that. And on the first of every month, things get cut for, your liquid funds and all of that. But between 25th and 1st, what happens between the salary is, we did this same thing. We put money on splitwise. We figured out what the expenses. I created an Excel sheet. I put rent, electricity, we have 5 employees in the house. House help, domestic help is only so much. Put all of that, internet, this, that, everything. Figured out what is the monthly expense. Instead of, dividing it like you take groceries and he does outing. Took that chunk of money, divided it by 2. When salary comes into account, both of us we created a joint account. Joint account is only for expenses. It is not for savings. And so we created a joint account. He puts in half the chunk, I put in half the chunk, and then all expense, which is a together expense, grocery, rent, this, that, everything happens from the joint. So I don't pay rent from my personal account. If by mistake that happens, then I will take money from the joint account back into my personal account. But I will keep it crystal clear that from the joint account only all the expenses are happening. And by the end of the month, the joint account ideally comes to like a 5K, 3K, because the point is to finish that money. So you never feel guilty. If you actually have money in that, you're like, sahi hai boss, chal, let's go have fun. Because we have not made that kharcha.
Yeah, that's our next step. That's something we've been talking about as doing next. That whatever that is, we just put that chunk there and operate it with 2 cards or whatever.
Because then I can't keep tracking every expense and all of that. Another thing I also know is, say, for example, in the month of November, there are anniversaries, birthdays, all of those things coming up. I will, in that joint account, I'll start an RD where we both put in an extra 10K. So by the time it's November, like a chunk of like 60,000-70,000 comes back into that account. And we have that to handle the expenses that have come in, rather than suddenly from our personal accounts money is going out. So that's how we've managed when, say, our nieces came over to stay with us for a month, or my parents used to come over to stay with us for a month. That's how we managed without dipping into our personal accounts. Of course, it requires foresight, it requires planning, it requires all of those things. But it helps for someone who's as neurotic about money as me. So it gets divided like that. Immediately into investments, immediately into the expense account also. And then wherever that salary wala, and then I put money into the curveball funds and everything. The money goes into all directions where it has to go. And there is a separate account for kharcha, personal, my own kharcha, where I don't question myself. That's around 10-20K per month unquestionable money. Whatever I want to do, I can do. That I allow myself in a separate account. So I have 3 accounts for that. Unquestionable account, curveball account, and salary account. Jahan se investments jata hai.
Yeah. So I think mine's a lot simpler in the sense that been through a lot of different stages in life, and sort of instinctively we figured out spend from a joint account, and the way I've been brought up has been that you have individual accounts, which is very different from what my husband's was, right? Because he's not used to even thinking about money in that sense, right? So I think the first decade or so was just to figure out how to manage to live within our graduate school budgets or whatever it is, still have a life, still be able to travel, which is why I'm now perennially scared of credit cards. And so when I came back to India and I started earning a little bit more, that allowed me a little flexibility. I think instinctively we just kept a joint account where monthly stuff would happen. But beyond that, as we've evolved through the next couple of decades or so, through the 30s, through our 40s, for me it's fairly simple. I know from previous experience how much I need to live life in a month. And I am not the kind who can track very systematically every single month. Like I'm this big disappointment to my dad because he does that, right? Even today. I don't know why he's doing it, but he's still doing it today. So I can't do that. I've tried it and I can't. And it just bothers me with a sense of failure that I can't. So I'm very clear. I account for big things that I know are coming. Maintenance bills or, property taxes, this tax, school fees. These are big chunks that I know are coming at some frequency through the year. And a contingency fund / savings, whatever it is, right? So those are my big chunks. And I say that from my salary, I will not spend more. I will only transfer X amount to my spending accounts. That's it. And I'm not going to question him. If it goes for clothes, it goes for clothes. If it goes for groceries, groceries. If I'm eating out too much this month, fine, it's all right. But that's the amount I'm comfortable spending every month. If I save some of it, great. It goes recycled back into a savings. But if it's gone, it's gone. It's okay. I'm done. It's finished. So in that sense, I've managed to stay within a certain budget. I'm very clear that if I'm earning X, 50% of X I try to put away. I try. Because I have the flex. I own my own home. So, I don't have rent to worry about. So it's not a 20%, it's a 50% I can put away. So I've been doing that for the past 8 years of earning, whatever. I've been, putting away money that I know is sustainable. And as far as mutual funds and all of that, I have a stash that's there. I get my RM to tell me every quarter what's happening. But because I'm very clear, I don't have the mind space to be tracking up and down. No, it's gone up, now sell, now down. I don't. And I'm very clear, I don't want high risk. Very, very clear. I know the reward will be higher, but the risk is too much for me to take. So I'm okay with a 15% or 20% if the market is blazing like it is now. But I'm okay. Between 10-15% आ जाएगा, ठीक है, it's okay. 5 साल के लिए रख लो, it's okay. But I want to make sure that it's in safe funds that will grow. And when I need to retire, if I need to retire, I am not freaking out and I'm not asking my kids for any money. I don't want it from them. They can go on their journeys. If they get money from me, great. But they don't have to depend on me either. They should not depend on me. But I want to be comfortable. I want to be independent. I am very clear that I want to spend the rest of my life traveling, having experiences. Till I'm healthy, happy. I don't want to be penny pinching. I'm done that, been there, done that, can't do it anymore. I'm done. I'm like, the number of people who've been dying around me between 50 and 55 is actually really scary. So I'm like, hello, especially after COVID, right? So I'm like, I have to live. And so now I look at my money fund as my living fund.
Oh, wow.
Rather than,
That's a great way. I mean, I really like that you spoke about death in this way.
Yeah,
Because
I want to be sure that whatever it is, I'm living safely but happily. And it allows me to do things that truly matter to me because I don't eat much. I mean, like, खाना पीना तो बहुत कम है.
Why are you skimping money on food, Emma?
I'm not skimping. So when I eat good stuff. I'm like, I'm not going to stop myself from eating like this tomato versus that tomato. I'm done. नहीं करने वाली हूँ.
the brie cheese.
Yes, I will eat the brie cheese and the fancy tea.
Eat less. So I might as well have brie cheese.
Yeah.
I will have processed cheese.
Exactly. Why?
Yeah.
Right?
But food, even, I mean, I think this is the biggest misconception. I was, when I moved to Bangalore, I was living in a backpackers hostel for some time till I found a house. And over there, people would mostly order food, and me and this friend of mine in that hostel would end up cooking. And we would spend for like 2 meals, breakfast, like everything included. We would end up spending maybe 10-12,000 on groceries.
Together, na? So that's 6K per person.
No. Something around that. This included non-veg, right? And it was not like we were not buying brie cheese at that time. Like somebody else would eat it in that hostel, only for that reason. But whatever, right? It would be like for all of this 12,000 a month, and people that were living with us who were ordering food like outside would end up spending 20-25,000. And even today, right? I'm like you, like I would buy expensive cheese and I'm like fond of all of that. It does not cost as much as people think it does.
Exactly. It's that same amount of money and I'm living perfectly well. It's just that I'm mindful about how that I spend it on things that bring me, it's a bit cliche to say that, but it brings me joy, right? It's that one meal that I'm eating nicely. I'll buy the baby butterhead lettuce that is organic if I want to. But ठीक है यार, it still doesn't cost me that much, you know. And so it's really changed and I have reached a certain amount of peace where I'm like, it's okay. I will never touch my capital, you know. But if I need to touch the interest for, you know, money that I need to maybe travel, to do something special. This is my 50th year. I am going to travel. I have decided, fuck this. I am going to travel through this year. And if it means I need income, that's what that money is there for. And so now I will not touch the main part because I'm too scared to do that. But, you know, if I need some, it's perfectly okay to do that. And so, yeah, it's still evolving, like I said, but I am now. So now the conversations I have with my manager is very different. I'm like, dude, go here, magar mera tool ka, I need this much utilization of that tool. I want to use this amount of money for this part of my life. I want this amount of money. You make it happen.
make my money work for me. I'm not going to work for my money anymore. And I think that to have come here has taken me so long. So I don't sweat the Excel sheets because I can't. I'm just not capable of it. So I have now found a way to be healthy with my money. Not completely there yet, but that's where I am. Big goals. Make sure that through the year you've accounted for it, because this will happen. There is some contingency fund that you can break into, and keep feeding that whenever you have a surplus.
No, I think that comes with experience. The reason why I started with monthly Excel sheets and now then moved it to quarterly is because I've understood the pattern, right? And now once I understand the pattern, it might eventually become a 6 monthly, it might become an annual thing that I will do. But it has to start somewhere where there's a regularity so that I can at least notice a pattern, right? I'm coming from a place where I was broke.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
So
I
didn't even
completely get where
know-
you're going.
I didn't even know where all my money was and how much it was. And there was this constant fear that I don't have money.
I think my personal finance folder, is full of dead Excel sheets, which I have started, because different people at different points in life who are smart with their money have tried to explain this to me, right? And have tried to empower me with this. And I have tried for like 2 months, and then I'll forget for 2 months, or I'll not do it correctly, or I'll go back again after 6 months. So it's like a graveyard of Excel sheets that I have.
Yeah.
And I think that if I had started earlier, like you girls, right? Or even at your age, I think in a more sustainable fashion, I think I would have saved myself a lot of grief over time, right? Which it's life. So you figure it out, you deal with the cards you're dealt, right? And you just evolve your own philosophy and approach to money that lets you sleep at night.
I think it's very strategic also in that sense what we do, because when we were talking about body and beauty and we were talking about personal training and how it's expensive, right? And if I want to set aside 10K every month for personal training, I will stop drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
And I will stop just because I'm going to Delhi for a work trip doesn't mean I have to spend 10,000-12,000 buying great alcohol for cheap. So what it allows you to do is figure out what your priorities are and say that this is more important. That part of my life, I've done enough, I've partied enough, can shut down. I'm going to focus more here. I will probably do less of domestic trips, and I will save that entire chunk of money and do one international trip this year. I will probably not go out this month because I have had my pets' expenses have increased this month. So what it allows me to do is, instead of feeling, oh shit, kharcha ho gaya, it allows me to be proactive of
Prioritize.
where I am going to.
Prioritize what part of your life is important.
Oh, this month I can't go out, and now bindas I can tell my friends, oh, you guys are eating out, I'll catch you guys after you all are done eating out, बाद में मिलते हैं after party घर पे आ जाओ. Because I know नहीं हो सकता ये महीना, and I'll just spend 2,000-3,000 and I won't even enjoy that food and I won't even be okay with it. I'd rather spend it on my pet, right? So there is no guilt feeling anymore. I feel I'm on top of it and I'm proactive, and I am dealing with this scarcity mindset with I am riding the wave kind of a mentality.
So maybe to wind this up, we can. So what is your future goal for your relationship with money?
Like I said, I always feel I never have enough.
Okay.
So I think it will be about educating myself on what that enough is. And even though I've worked with the financial planner that we both have, it will be about, I think you need to revisit time and again, because we change as people, and what I would want, circumstances, right? 3 years ago, I probably would have wanted to buy a 3 BHK, but now we've decided to buy a 2 BHK, so that all our kharchas are less. Maintenance will be lesser. Everything will be lesser. So again, I think we will be able to recalibrate a lot. I can't say what is the future thing, but it's always to know how much is enough. What is that line where I don't have to sweat it anymore? I think that is what my goal will be constantly, every year on year, to figure, or every 4-5 years, is to figure out at what point do I have to not sweat it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know actually. I mean, it's a very interesting question because when I was 25, I set a financial goal for myself, saying that, and it was a very arbitrary number. Like I did some math based on my salary at that time and what did I expect it to grow at, etc. And I was like, okay, by the time I'm 30, I want to have X amount in savings, right? Which was like I don't know where that came from. Like now looking back, I don't know why I decided to put that number.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, but like I just put an arbitrary number, and at that time, I don't think I was so conscious about that. Okay, this money I want to spend like this. It was no, there was no logic or there was no goal for which I was saving that money. It was just saving for the sake of saving, I guess. But now I think if I'm able to, like Anusha was talking about, this whole calibrate, like meet goals, and if that means calibrating like goals and make money work for me for what I want to do, I think that would be something that would be my hope, like
Maybe the
for-
next decade.
yeah, for the next decade, or how this relationship with money can evolve. Though my larger goal in life is like financial freedom, which is that I don't think I will stop working, but I don't need to work for money. So that's my uber life goal, to reach there as soon as I can. But yeah, so I guess maybe that.
So freedom from having to make money.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Freedom from having to make money. Mine was a lot more, like retrospectively speaking, because we've seen women in our family dealing with so much physical and mental abuse because they were not financially independent. My goal was just like, I will work my ass off to just make sure that no man can hit me.
It's
That
powerful motivation.
That is one single motivation.
A very powerful one.
It's a lot of fear.
It's a lot of fear, but I have to earn my own money so that no man, not even another woman, no man has the power to raise his hand on me. That is what dictated my entire thing of.
It's generations of women who would have benefited from having that mindset. Of,
Yeah. But it was like my mom was like, you don't want to be in my situation? Stand on your own 2 feet, earn your own money so that you can walk out of any house that you want to. It's the only reason why my aunts, my mom, everybody else could never work out of their houses, because they didn't have their own money. So not having to work for money is such an evolved conversation, because I was like at this level, like earn money so that no one can hit you. That was the baseline for me. And from there,
from there.
from there to reach this point where I have the money now and I can figure it out and I can eventually like this is very paradise level what you're talking to me. That I don't have to keep working for money anymore. But just that I've achieved that is an achievement for me.
I'll just ask you one question. Would you like?
What is all?
Oh, my goal.
You also like an interviewer.
Because it's so interesting, right? I think for me, I have reached a place where I can see the goal of being free from making money, from having to make money, right?
Mine's there, yeah.
Not
I
yet
wanna be
there.
Hema.
Not yet there. I can see the goal. But it's also because I have, when I speak to people my age, my generation, right? Their goalposts are constantly moving. They start with like 1 crore, I need 2 crore, I need 5 crore, then becomes 10 crore, become 20 crore. And then it's never, and you're never going to be free of that goal, right? And so I wanted to have a very clear exercise on, I want to be free of having to work in places I don't want to work, in roles that I don't want to do because I want a certain thing, right? And that freedom, I have said that I will live a different life if I need to. It's okay if I'm not traveling to the Riviera and staying in 5-star hotels all the time. In fact, it's okay. Once or twice a year, if I can travel somewhere in Asia also, I'm all right. I will be mindful about how I travel. Not that I will cut it off. But given this, I think in the next 5 years, 8 years, whatever it is, I'm hoping to not bother again, right? Like I can slow down now on what I earn and make enough. I have chosen to make just enough to not worry too much.
Pocket money time.
Not pocket money, manage my day to day kharcha. कि वो हो गया है, ठीक है, right? But big kharcha, I may have to, sort of figure out interest or whatever it is that
Will
I
come
can
from the
get
capital
from
that you
some
stored
FD
and will
or
come.
whatever, right? Some savings. But I don't mind that. It's okay. I don't have to invest principal and save interest every single time. Maybe 1/4 if I have to remove it, okay, it doesn't matter. But I have made it very clear to all my financial planners. You want to own my money and you want to manage my money and you want your commission, na? Make my money freaking work so that by 55, it is fuck you to the world money. That's what I want.
Financial planners. You have plural.
Because it's a team inside the bank. Yeah, they all came. They're like, please, ma'am, don't take our money. So they called and they're like, ma'am, please. I was like, yeah, dude, एक ही है. ये करो. नहीं करोगे तो पैसा लेके कहीं और जाऊंगी मैं. But ये करो.
Yeah, but I think you mentioned something very interesting, which is that oftentimes as your income grows, your goalposts or your dreams also grow exponentially.
Yeah.
Right. And that becomes a kind of slippery slope, right? And that leads to this feeling of, okay, my salary has like doubled in like whatever 5 years, but I still feel like I am living paycheck to paycheck. I don't
That's
have
because
enough.
suddenly this house is not enough, and then you have to live in one fancy place, and then you have to like bigger Mercedes chahiye, and like why not? The point becomes why not? The question
deserve
maybe we
this.
should
But
have.
also becomes, I work so
I
hard,
deserve
I deserve
this.
it.
I deserve this. Why not? And maybe if we start asking why, and we remember to keep asking why, you're less likely to do that, right? It's just.
I think Vijay and I, we keep each other on our toes in that sense. We're like, नहीं metro लेके जाएंगे. हम metro में जाएंगे. We bought a house close to the metro. Because makes sense. We'll take metro and go wherever we have to go. We don't need a bigger car.
Remember to retire when you chose to retire, your goal. I think that's truly, that's power that nobody can take away from him. That's like, it's true power that.
What would be one I don't know. I think we are all in 3 different age groups, right?
One takeaway for how to handle money.
For the one that's
barely experts.
Yeah, we're barely experts.
Maybe
But I think, see, we are what would 90s and then there's kids who are born in 2000s, right?
This.
What would we tell?
Let's rephrase this question, right? If you were to go back a decade and give an advice to your younger self, what would that be? Hema.
It's one decade ago. Yeah, that's tangible. That's bullish.
Yeah.
One day.
So 1 decade ago, I would tell Hema to not be afraid of money and to trust my instincts on what to do. And I think that's it. And make sure that you are brave with your decisions, not foolhardy, but brave with your decisions about money and not basically no fear. Articulate your goals. That's what I would do.
Anusha?
Mine 10 years ago would be start that Excel sheet.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it would be to just believe in the power of compounding. Like it has worked for me like nothing else. And just like kind of trust that over the years, it will grow in ways that you don't kind of expect, but just do the work. Right? You have to start and just do it consistently. Yeah.
That's the reason why the Excel sheet. So that there's constant visibility on whether or not I am doing this month on month. When I say Excel sheet, it's a proxy word for accountability and really having visibility on what I'm doing. Not when you say afraid, not being afraid, but actually face you. The most of the time we don't put it down on paper is because we are like scared to face our behavioral patterns. But only when you look at it can you fix it, if something's wrong. So I think that's what I would advise myself to do. All right. That's closing thoughts. Thank you.